with yourself, even if you're just writing it down in your journal. It's fine if you're like, look, it might be crappy, but as long as you leave me alone, I'm okay, and that's fine. I'm not judging you, and I don't think anyone else is going to. But it's that type of clarity that helps you to not sell yourself a dream. It's that type of clarity that then helps for you to list out and align goals and steps that are going to be in alignment with that vision. And too often, when people are deeply stressed, they want to just kind of use the escape hatch and like, I just have to go. Or they think, right, that anywhere but here is better than where I am. And that is a fallacy, right? That is not true. We all know that. So I think it's very important to take the first step and to think deeply about what is the motivation. And I'll give you a quick exercise that I think can really help with that. When it pertains to your work, think about what is currently working for you and what is currently not working for you. Make a list, really write it down, right? And then from the list of things that are currently working for you, I want you to then put those things into two other lists, which is external and internal. So, from the things that are working for you, how much of that is external, right? As the organization, your lifestyle, what have you, and how much of that is internal, meaning your own brilliance, the way you think, the way you process the things that you like. I think that's a very important guide for you in this next step. And on the other side, the things that don't work for you, write them down. And be honest. No one else is reading it. I'm not gonna be like look over your shoulder. Be as honest as possible. Maybe don't share it with anyone. And from those things that are not working for you, I want you to then take them and say, how much of that is external, the organization, and how much of that is me, right? We have to take responsibility. And it's hard because no one wants it to be them. Like, I don't want it to be me. Like, I'm not the problem. But it's not necessarily that you're the problem. It's just, it might be that it's a misalignment, right? It might be that when you started 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you were eager, it was fine, and now you've evolved. It's important to be honest and to allow yourself the space to evolve as a professional, how you think or how you work. Now, from those things that don't work and are external, those things should be pretty much no-goes if possible for the next organization because you understand what doesn't work for you. So that helps to give you a little bit more bearing and within the kind of, I guess, shininess of like, moving to the next country for the next opportunity. I think, oh, going to Paris or going to wherever sounds fantastic. But putting these types of guardrails or framework around that decision helps to ground you to do something that's going to be, I think, at least well thought out and aligned for this next chapter of your life.
Well, and this makes a ton of sense, right? Because these are not quick processes that you're talking about, right? When we're talking about like sit down, actually think, what is it that you are not liking where you are, or whatever. We're not looking for what's to blame. We're looking for what is the actual root of your discomfort or displeasure or, whatever it might be. Are you kind of beating yourself against a wall because there's nowhere for you to go vertically in this organization? Or do you just really not like your coworker that sits next to you and listens to radio that you find somewhat distasteful? So, being very sure about, I mean, it's honestly it's kind of like a breakup a little bit of like, do I really not like this relationship or am I just not acting like myself in this? So I think it is really important to ask those questions and know because like if you know what it is you're trying to fix or get away from, as long as it's not you're trying to get away from you, because you're going to be taking yourself everywhere you go. So I think that this makes a ton of sense because you're talking about making large scale life changes that you want to make for not necessarily for the right reasons, but like with the right intentionality so that you're getting what you want. You're not just changing your location and now the problems are different.
Absolutely, because that is a rude awakening, is to go somewhere else and be like, wait, it's the same. It's a different place, but it's the exact same things are happening. It's like, it's you. You're not the problem. but you are the common denominator. And that kind of goes into this overall conversation when it comes to belonging, culture, and fit. This is the type of intentionality and the type of introspection that's needed to understand culturally for an organization what is working for me and what am I looking for as I go abroad, because belonging isn't something that you slot yourself into. And I think a lot of organizations confuse that. They talk about organizational fit and culture fit. They're looking for someone to slide on in, and it's like that's not actually true, right? Culture is developed over time, right? Usually from the top down. Someone likes foosball, so now we have a foosball in the game room, or whatever. Someone loves everyone to be dressed to the nines all days of the week, or something like that. Something, distasteful jokes are permitted because they think it's funny. Culture is developed over time. So we have to really take that time to understand the components of culture and belonging, which we can do as we do this kind of dissection of what's working, what's not working, so that when we go abroad or when we're presented with opportunities or we're working our network to see what's available and what's going on. And people might say, oh, this is available, this is over here. You can start asking really pointed questions about the organization's culture and understand how that relates to you as a person, as an employee, but then also understand the work that will still need to be done once you get the position and you're abroad. Because it, it's not like magic fairy dust, right? You don't land on a different tarmac in a different time zone, and people are there to greet you and give you gifts and say, we've been waiting for you forever. Thank you so much for being here. I wish that'd be very lovely. No, but there's a lot of work to be done, even if you find the job and you go abroad. It's an ongoing process. So you want to make sure that the work that you're doing is intentional, meaning not just airy fairy. And I know intentional and all these words have become buzzwords, they've lost their meaning, but but really about being strategic. You need to know what you're looking for, you need to know what you need, and then you need to know how to cultivate that within an organization for yourself, meaning cultivate fit, cultivate belonging.
I like this. Okay, let's talk a bit about workplace culture. One of the things that I find just hilarious in the most macabre way possible is that professionalism is this very neutral standard. It's not professional. It's not professional. I've been told what's not professional my entire life, other than being a straight white dude. I've never been like had someone held up being like, this is professional, right? That's the standard. Um, when you are in a situation or you're trying to navigate a workplace where the rules of professionalism were not written with you in mind, how can you kind of not necessarily adjust, but like how should somebody try and navigate that situation? If they are in a situation where they're trying to be professional, but the rules are not written with you in mind, the rules never accounted for someone like you to even be in the room. How do you handle situations like this?
This is where I think my superpower of being an introvert has always worked really well. And people are always surprised because I think in a lot of Western workplaces, like it's the extrovert that wins, but the introvert observes, right?
Mhm.
We are like, what's going on? What's happening? I'll give you an example. When I first moved to Spain, um, I was with uh, an organization up north, and I was like, cool, great. I'm here. I'm ready to do my thing. And this is 9 years ago, right? So I was like, yeah, let's go. And I didn't understand that like at around 10 or 11, we would stop, we'd have a break, and we'd have coffee. I thought, okay, well, I'll just go into the coffee room and I'll just have a coffee and just call it a day. But I noticed that everyone would be like, are you coming to the cafe? Are you coming? And I was like, no, I'm okay. Because I'm an introvert. So I was like, yeah, I was talking to all these people all this time. And now I just want to be alone. I love being alone, right? And people were like, yeah, come to the cafe. And I would go to the cafe and I would be around my other colleagues, and we would laugh and we joke and all these other things. And I would really like prefer to be break room. But what I understood is through observation is that there are different cultural norms to professionalism, right? There's no blanketed professionalism. I think now we're living in a globalized environment where a lot of Western American or maybe British norms are trying to be the norm. But really, it's about sociological norms. It's about the cultural norms of the place, but also of your other colleagues. I think the best way to do it is to observe and to find a trusted colleague or manager to be able to observe them and to use them as a guide. I think, especially if it's not going to be something that is deleterious to you at all, or something that goes against your ethics. Going to get a coffee with a bunch of like very social, fun Spanish people is not against my ethics. It wasn't deleterious to me at all. It was something that I was like, well, we were all together and now I want to be alone. I had a preference, but I understood that I was like, let me see what this does. I went for the coffee. I always went for the coffee. And the great thing is like every day someone paid for the rounds of coffees. Okay. It's not a lot, but that's what we did. And through that kind of engagement, you have more of social cohesion within the organization, but also it helps you professionally because people feel like, okay, you're willing to try, you're willing to be a part of the group. And when I have a question about like, well, what does this mean and what's going on? Open to tell me about it. And I think that's the thing about professionalism is I think for managers and people higher up trying to press that onto other people, we have to have open space for dialogue and for communication and understanding. And I think also for employees, you have to have a little bit of wiggle room. I will say, though, I'm always really weary of any forms of professionalism that don't have the space for just different types of cultural nuance, right? Whether it be accents, because there's a lot of accent discrimination, or some sort of linguistic discrimination about how maybe someone is communicating. And it's like, well, are they in front of the client or not? Is that even important? Like these types of things that I feel are mostly made to make people conform, not actually have some sort of business interest. I'm really wary of that because I'm like, how is it that we want to be a globalized, everyone wants to be international company, but we don't want to have space for the differences that we all have, right? And the fact that someone has an accent means they speak another language. You know what I mean? Like we need
Yeah.
to have this space. So yeah, I think when it comes to professionalism, it's all about observing and being flexible, but you have to have the anchor of knowing what your ethics are and who you are. If you don't have that, then you might have gone all the way left in my situation. Be like, I will not have a coffee with you. I will be by myself. Okay, you can jump off the cliff about
It's a
for that.
choice.
I don't know
Yeah.
how that's gonna work. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I get it. It's like it's not just about the coffee. It's about demonstrating that when someone tries to invite you to something, will you yes and them, or are you going to shut them down because you don't know everything about the situation yet? Are you assuming that you know what this is all going to be like, and so I don't need to be there, or are you willing to give it a chance? Nobody says you have to go every single time, but test the waters and see exactly what it is that you're opting out of, I think is a good idea. Okay, we only have a couple minutes left. I want to touch on something that I think is really, really important in this conversation. Anti-Blackness shows up in a lot of spaces, in a lot of both really egregious and very, very like insidious tiny ways. Can you identify, or how do you try to identify countries that are relatively safer for Black professionals, pardon me, for Black professionals to live and work internationally?
I think that I get this question a lot, and I'm always weary of giving answers because I'm weary, but I also enjoy giving this answer. Because I don't believe that there is like top 10 best places for Black people to work abroad. I'm not sure if that's available for anyone. But I will say for sure, as a Black American woman, there's not a top 10 best places to work around the world, right? I think this requires a lot of nuance. If we're talking about um, we're talking about a best place for you to work and be able to move within an organization? Is it a place that has many Black people, women at CEO or C-suite positions? Is that a norm in the country? Like that's a complete different list than, okay, a place that has a high population of Black people. So I guess tolerance or being around and being in the space isn't not going to be perceived as unusual. For example, Lisbon, which I was in Lisbon earlier this year for an artist residency, is a city in Portugal, but Lisbon, it has its already established presence of Blackness due to former colonies in Brazil. So there's Black people there. I when I stepped off the plane, I was like, oh, because I live in Spain, so I was like, in Spain, we're like a little bit of chocolate drops. And when I was in Lisbon, I was like, okay, this is amazing. But actually, the work that I was doing, which is some preliminary field work, I was speaking to many different Black Portuguese women professionals, and there's clearly a glass ceiling. And they're like, and this is for women who are Black Portuguese, they have citizenship, they're from Portugal, women who come from very well-to-do families, um, feel like there is only so high I can go in that organization. So that's a different type of conversation, right? That's a different measurement. But then I also have to really be honest that if you're Black American entering into a space, kind of like in Lisbon, you'd have to be really mindful of American passport privilege, as long as that is still a thing. We'll see. It's
Yeah,
kind of
we'll
degrading right
see.
now. So we'll see how long that lasts. But having passport privilege can and often change the situation for you. And then you have to say, okay, well, maybe Black people hit here, but I might be able to get here, and are you comfortable with that? Right? These are the tensions that I think are often flattened in conversations with migration. When we talk about living abroad and da, 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 like it's fun and social media and it's, Instagram. So it's great.
Yeah.
It's Facetune. It's wonderful. So we have to be really mindful that migration isn't one thing. It's an interdisciplinary study. It's an interdisciplinary effect, right, on every aspect of society. And so you might say, well, I just want to go and just live my life. I don't want to harm anyone. That's not my intention. And that's good because you shouldn't want to harm people. Okay. We should not want to be harming people. But just because you don't want to or you're intending not to doesn't mean that your presence isn't harming. So it's important to really think about that. And that kind of goes back to how I started this, which is we think about migration as relief, migration as structural change, as liberation. They are different things. I am not here to judge you. I don't know you. And, we may never meet again. So don't worry. I'm not going to be coming behind you, shaming you about your decisions. No, I'm not going to do that. What
Yeah.
I'm asking you is to think about these things deeply and to allow yourself to hold the tensions of these questions and allow yourself to be uncomfortable. One, because going abroad is uncomfortable. I don't know why people think it's not, but it is uncomfortable. So when we think about questions like, what are the top 10 places to move abroad if you're a Black professional? It's complicated, right? If we're
Yeah.
thinking about where am I not going to be racially menaced or aggressed, I mean, I would look to countries that have laws against hate crime and workplace harassment. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but that's a good indicator. Do you want to be a place where you're not the only? Well, I would look for places and countries and cities like that, all within also your other requirements of, do you want to professionally develop, or are you okay
Mhm.
where you're at? Are you looking for increased pay or commiserate pay, or at least proportional to whatever the cost of living is? It's a very complicated um, won't say complicated. It's a
Nuanced.
multi-layered approach, right? It's nuanced. And I bring that to you, and I'm so glad that you guys are here to hear me wax poetic about it because I really believe that migration, one, it's here to stay because it's never gone away because we've been doing
Yeah.
this since the beginning of time. But
Millennia.
I for millennia, like we get up and we go. But I'm really excited that you are here to listen to these nuances, that you're brave enough, smart enough, probably beautiful enough, to hear this, to hold these tensions, and to explore what is next for you within these lenses. Because I do believe it's going to make sure that you fare better abroad, right? Because I always think of this also within the lens of sustainability and longevity, not just, because on social media, it's just about taking the leap abroad and then
Then we
not so
get
many
there
stories about
and
what happens afterwards. So
yeah. Yeah, no, I think this is wonderful. And honestly, it keeps coming back to the idea of like knowing what you are running from or running to or both. Which is fine. There's no wrong answers to any of these questions. You just have to try and figure out what the truth is for you. What is it that you need or that you do not want in your life anymore? Yeah, I love this. Okay, I could talk about this for like literally hours more, so we have to get another one of these on the books. But Christine, thank you so much. This has been absolutely wonderful. I have loved getting to talk to you the last half hour. I really, really hope we get to do this again soon.
me too. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you all for listening and sticking around. I appreciate you. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.
Absolutely, y'all. All right, now don't forget, you are with Meg. So whether you're a little treat person or not, listen to Meg. Okay. You just took 30 minutes out of your day to do something positive for yourself and your career. That is not easy. It is thankless. All right. So again, whether you're a little treat person or not, give yourself the pat on the back, the gold star, cookie, coffee drink, maybe not Starbucks, is all I'm saying. But whatever it is, go out, treat yourself, and go out and have the day y'all voted for. Now, whether this was your first event or your 40th, I sincerely hope it will not be your last with us. And I cannot wait to see y'all back here on another event soon. That's it for us today.